Hi, this is Ronnie from Everything Vive. I'm here in my apartment, several days after GDC 2018 has been done and over with. And I just wanted to sit down to kind of talk about some of my impressions after getting a chance to try Space Junkies. Space Junkies is a VR multiplayer zero-G shooting game that's being worked on by Ubisoft Montpellier. Currently, the studio over there, and I have to say that my impressions of the game in the 40-ish minutes or so that I got a chance to play it, I was super impressed. I didn't really have any expectations going into it. In fact, off the top of my head, I couldn't tell you exactly how many titles that Ubisoft at this point has released in VR, but none of their titles have been bad per se, but none of them have really stood out to me as games that I really wanted to spend a lot of time in, mainly because none of them really felt like they were designed from the ground up for VR. And from beginning to end, Space Junkies completely dashed any of my ideas on those notion. I mean, clearly, this team at Ubisoft knows what works in VR and what doesn't, and it's clear that they're trying to really make a shooter that is extremely high quality in the VR setting. So, moving on to, I guess, how I started my experience with Space Junkies, my time began in a tutorial, and like I said, this is a zero-G shooting game. And basically, you're in space and you have a jetpack, but you're not in any kind of vehicle. Imagine you're in a space marine type suit, either that or you're an alien. You're someone that's able to, more or less be in human form outside in space. And because it's zero-G, you're using a jetpack to kind of propel you up and down, forward and backwards. And then, in addition to that, you're able to then, use guns, in this case, like a laser sword and a shield. You're able to kind of push yourself around the environment using both the jetpack and your hands if you're close to an object. But then you still have the freedom of being able to kind of move and interact with objects outside of yourself without having to worry about a cockpit being in the way. And so what I noticed right away in the tutorial is once I got the hang of it, I played using Oculus Rift controllers. And with that setup, I wasn't able to quite move around 360 since we didn't have an extra sensor set up. So I was mainly using my head to kind of control. Your head movement in this game starts to kind of bias the turning radius, so you do tend to move slightly where you look. But in addition to that, like I said, you do propel yourself with the jetpack that, if I recall correctly, you're controlling mainly with the right thumbstick. It's definitely one of the sticks that lets you kind of, go forward and backwards. And you can also go up and down, like I mentioned. And then you're also able to kind of turn yourself with one of the sticks as well. So you're able to do kind of, I believe it was 90-degree turns. I could be, or 45-degree rather turns. But at any rate, the turning radius that they provided, along with the head tracking movement-based system, was very, very smooth. And I tend to be one of those types of people that don't do super well with free locomotion shooters. But in this scenario, I both felt like I was in control, and I also felt like everything was very comfortable and smooth. And really, just after a few minutes in the game, I really felt like I could move around these fairly large levels with great precision, and I felt like I was really able to have a very a very intense multiplayer experience with the movement system that they're providing you. So it hands down one of the best experiences I've had in VR as far as getting around, because I really do think, the best way, and I mentioned this to them, the best way I could describe my kind of my feelings of the game is it almost felt like a zero-G version of Halo in VR. And what I was trying to get at when I say that is that, you know, you feel like the movement system, the types of movements you're able to do are a little arcadey. They're beyond what you would be able to probably do in real life, obviously. But at the same time, everything feels really geared in. You feel like you have a lot of control in what you're able to do, and because of that, you're able to have these great multiplayer experiences. When I get to kind of explaining that part, but yeah, like the movement felt very responsive and very tight, and at the same time, because I was able to go up and down, forward and backwards, kind of anywhere I wanted to go within the. You know how you kind of do all kinds of jumping and hopping in Halo? Well, being able to go up and down in space because it's 0G kind of gave me that feel. Like I had that control to kind of, get over the battlefield, so to say, and then go back in on it once I saw that there were enemies there. And that was a really cool feeling. So yeah, I talked about the movement system a little bit, which again, like most of the tutorial is getting you used to the movement system, being able to kind of navigate that. They have you go through rings and try to go through an obstacle course within a certain amount of time. And the only trouble I had with that part is I didn't realize I wasn't holding down. There's a button that you use to accelerate your movement, basically kind of almost like a run boost kind of thing, but in the air. Once I realized that I needed to be pressing that down, then all of a sudden the timing element of the demo was no problem for me, and really the tutorial very much did prepare me for getting into the multiplayer. And as far as I could tell, I mean, at this stage in the game, at the very least, there's really just the tutorial there to kind of give you the basics, and then they drop you right into multiplayer, and that's really the focus of the game. So after I finished the tutorial, I was dropped down into this lobby area. It was kind of a main area where you could interact with people before you went to go launch a match. And the thing that really impressed me during this lobby area, and again, it was one of those things I had to kind of take a moment to absorb it and take it all in. But they were showing me the full body avatar system that they've created for Space Junkies at Ubisoft. And I mean, I'm sure if you're like me, you've played a lot of VR titles at this point. There's numerous solutions for in-game avatars. Some of them are just hands and the head, like I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen, and others try to mimic full body avatars to greater or lesser degree of success. The full body avatars in Space Junkies are probably the best full body avatars I've seen in a VR title up to this point. And what I mean when I say that is that Ubisoft did a really good job of taking a lot of the jank that you see out of the full body avatars and how they try to anticipate what the player's trying to do with their movements. So, and again, I'm not a programmer. I don't know exactly what they're doing to make the system work. But something I noticed is that when I would move, so using the Oculus controllers, for example, they do have, finger and gesture support in the game based on the Oculus Touch. I don't know how that's going to exactly work with the Vive controllers, but with the Oculus Touch controllers, you are really able to do quite a wide range of hand gestures in the game. And beyond just the simple, I'm holding down most of my fingers but my index finger, so now my finger is pointed out, or look, I don't have my thumb on the stick, so I can give a thumbs up. All those things work in the game like you would expect. But some of the cool stuff that they were doing was when I would move my hand in a certain position to where, let's say, like I'm going to give a high five, or I'm like moving my hand in a way that would signal that I was trying to do a certain type of gesture. It's almost that the game would anticipate and try to read my intent into my hand movements and then adjust the avatar's hand appropriately. So sometimes, if my hand was kind of pointed down, it would it would be mimicking what like the fact that I probably wasn't attempting a real gesture doing that. But as soon as I would kind of put my hand up, it would understand that, oh, he's trying to interact somehow with the person in front of him, or he's trying to do a certain type of movement. And the hand would actually, in the game would kind of, without me physically doing any kind of inputs on the controller, it would infer what I was trying to do based on just where the controller was moving, and the hand in the game would move appropriately. And so it's hard to kind of give concrete examples of when it was doing that and how it was doing that, but the best way I can say is that it felt like the game was reading my mind at moments with what types of gestures I was trying to do. Like, it wasn't always one-to-one on the controller. Sometimes it was I honestly, it's not reading my hand, but it's reading my intent, and the hand gesture is moving based on what it thinks I'm trying to do. So, I mean, if not done perfectly, I'm sure it could lead to, sometimes the hand doing things you don't really want it to do, but I never ran into any situations like that. It honestly just felt so intuitive and so free as far as what I was able to do that I really did feel like I was able to really communicate well through gestures and through my full body avatar, while I was playing the game. It was one of the best experiences, like I said, that I've had in trying to express myself through a full body avatar. So that system in and of itself was super, super impressive, and yeah, I can't wait to see. Hopefully they'll use that full body avatar system in more than just this game, because it really was really special. One of the things that I should point out there is that the character designs are very Space Marine, Alien, that type of thing. So I'm not sure if that also helps kind of deal with the lack of emotions. That sort of thing, that you just read the body language and that's how you express yourself, rather than you don't see player faces per se or anything like that. So I mean, this is a really good compromise in that you get the full body language across without any of the distracting other qualities that you might get from an avatar that isn't quite right. So anyways, I wanted to talk about the full body avatar system in this game as much as I could, because it really was really one of the best ones that I've ever seen in a VR game at this point, and I wasn't expecting that going into this. So then yeah, I guess my last impression that I'd want to talk about was the combat itself. And again, I want to talk about that Halo comparison, that kind of fast paced, but very tight controlling, very responsive type of gameplay. I've seen some people online that have already published their impressions, kind of compare it to a game like Lone Echo, or Echo Arena, I should say, the multiplayer in that game where, you're in a zero-G environment, only this time you have weapons. I wouldn't necessarily compare it to that, because I felt like I was using, rather than pushing off of objects, which you certainly can do in this game, but I found myself mainly moving around with the jetpacks. And then, like I said, I mean, just the level design, the visual cues, all of that stuff reminded me of Halo and other, high quality competitive multiplayer games in a way that, you could tell that they were designing around gameplay. They were designing around making sure that things are clearly visible for players. There was just the right amount of debris in the way to kind of, allow the players to hide behind cover and that sort of thing. But also there wasn't so much going on in the levels to where I felt like it was a distraction. Once I found a player and I was kind of on the hunt, then the maps weren't getting in the way. If anything, they were just part of that. They were great complements to the combat systems that I was using in order to kind of take on the other team. Some of the things, like the fact that you're able to pull out a laser sword and a shield, kind of reminded me a little bit of a game like. The kind of like games that are out there, like Space Pirate Trainer, for example, where Space Pirate Trainer is an excellent example of how you can have very tactile weapons in a game. in VR, where you actually feel like you're in direct control. I really liked the fact that the shield that they provided you in the game, it's not immediately next to your person. So like in a game like Space Pirate Trainer, you feel like that shield is just, a few inches away from your hand. Well, here, because you're trying to protect your whole body in this zero-G environment, the shield is kind of projected, several feet away from your hand. So you're able to kind of protect yourself from above. You're able to protect your whole body from below. So when you hold it immediately down, the shield is actually past your avatar's feet, for example. It literally will go in like a full circle around your body depending on where you're holding it. And that felt very satisfying. And again, it felt like I had the tools that I needed to be strategic about how I encountered certain battles. And depending on the type of character you play, you'll have, I believe, larger, smaller shields and all that stuff. I mean, in general, it all just felt very, very good. I could be wrong on the size of the shields, but I do know that depending on your character, you'll have more higher amounts of health, but higher DPS and like all those sort of things. And I was playing with kind of an overall more balanced character to make sure that I wasn't dying too frequently during this first playthrough. But the combat felt great. There were pickups throughout the map, and the main thing, I just felt like I was able to move around this large level with ease, with comfort, and with the control that I needed to feel like whether I won or lost in the matches, and I was playing 2v2, I believe. When I got a kill, it was because I was playing well. It wasn't because the other people were confused. And when I died, it was because I didn't make the right strategic decision. It wasn't because I was fighting the controls or I was disoriented or anything like that. Just everything felt the way it should. And I will kind of end this brief, impression episode by saying that going into my demo, I didn't really know, or I didn't really have a lot of expectations for Space Junkies, but leaving it, it's absolutely a game that I will be picking up when it releases. I mean, there's no doubt about it. It's going to be a lot of fun. I think the replay value will kind of depend on what types of game modes are offered, how many maps, all of that sort of thing. So I will be interested to see kind of what price point they end up releasing this game at, seeing that it's only multiplayer. But based on just the fundamental mechanics of this game, it's definitely up there as far as one of the best VR multiplayer experiences I've ever played. If you're looking for something that's kind of a more arcadey, more fun, VR shooter, where you have a high degree of control, you're moving around a lot, and you're having an intense kind of shooter experience, then this is one to watch out for. And I can't wait to learn more about the game in the future. I'm definitely going to follow it. As we learn more about the game and as we get closer to release, I'm sure we'll share more impressions and more information on Space Junkies. Thanks a lot for listening, and if you have any questions or anything like that about the game, feel free to post them in comments if you're on YouTube, or if you're listening to this on iTunes. Eventually, I'm sure this stuff will be posted in other areas that you're able to more easily comment on. But Space Junkies, it's a game that if you have a Rift or a Vive, you should definitely be on the lookout for.